Welcome to Medieval Dynasty 101, where we will go over 10 tips for new and beginner players in Medieval Dynasty. Whether it's about basic survival, building and crafting, or farming, we are going to cover everything you need to know. And by the end of this video, I guarantee you will come out the other side more skilled and more wiser than ever. This is a beginner's guide to Medieval Dynasty. Starting with basic survival. As you start your game, there are a few tools you will need for your survival. Firstly, go into the options and get a good look at your keybinds to know the basic controls. Notably inventory, interact, sprinting, and the crafting wheel. Since this is a survival game, you do have a food and drink meter. Luckily, you start out with some food in your inventory, but if you need to drink, you can always go to the lake and drink directly from it. To pass time during the night hours, you can also sleep. To sleep, you will be required to sleep next to a campfire you've built or a house you've built. Throughout the game, there will be tooltips that pop up, so be sure to read those as well when they come. Tip 2 is questing. There are 3 main types of quests: chapter quests, story quests, and side quests. Before you can start building, you will have to start your chapter quest, which is to find the Castellan. These chapter quests are sort of a tutorial, but are also the most important quests to complete in the game. Story quests follow a few characters in the game, but aren't required to complete, and may be annoying to some players as they include a lot of delivery quests, but they are good if you want to explore the valley and their characters. Side quests are optional quests that you can do for villagers. These are important for dynasty reputation, but you can also get food, crafting reagents, or decent tools from them. Third tip is about leveling and skill points. In Medieval Dynasty, there are 6 skills: extraction, hunting, farming, diplomacy, survival, and production. Each skill has a skill tree where you can spend points to enhance your character. Each skill tree's maximum level is 10 and has up to 4 tiers. Skill points are acquired by performing actions throughout the world that correspond to each skill, and at least 1 skill point must be present in each tier below in order to advance to the next tier. But how do you level these skills, you may ask? To level extraction, chop trees, dig clay, and mine stone, salt, and ore. To level hunting, you can hunt and skin animals or collect from crafted traps. To level diplomacy, complete side quests, sell items to village vendors, flirt with villagers, and breed and sell animals from your animal pens. To level farming, perform tasks like plowing, fertilizing, and sowing fields. You can also gain farming from gathering items from animal pens and crafting items in a barn. To level production, crafting tools, cooking food, and sewing clothes are a few examples, but most crafting should level your production skill. And to level survival, gather items like reeds or berries, and fish. Tip 4 is about technology. To unlock building and crafting schematics, you will need to gain technology points. Technologies, or tech points, represent how technologically advanced your settlement is in either building, survival, farming, or production. Various actions performed by yourself or villagers generate these tech points. Sufficient technology points or coins will be required to unlock buildings and items in the game. Similarly to skill points, survival tech points are generated from hunting, gathering, and fishing. Farming tech points are acquired by performing farming tasks like plowing, fertilizing, sowing, etc. Production tech points are gathered from crafting, primarily at the workshop, smithy, sewing hut, tavern, and kitchen. And building tech points are generated from constructing buildings and logging. Tip 5 is about hunting. Hunting is a core activity in Medieval Dynasty. Hunting will get you meat, leather, fur, or feathers depending on what you decide to hunt. While you can use tools like an axe or a knife to take down animals, some animals run faster than others, so you are more likely going to need a ranged weapon, and that's where the wooden spear comes into play. Wooden spears can be crafted in your inventory using 1 log and can be thrown by right-clicking or left trigger on console. Once you have your tool, you need to find an animal to hunt. When you find an area where animals are located, it will actually be marked on your map if you go to the correct tab, and you can come back to these spots later to hunt them again. For animals that run, approach them while crouching for a better chance to get that first hit. Damaged animals move slower and are easier to chase down. Eventually, you will come across aggressive animals like boar or wolves, or even badgers and foxes that will take a few hits to take down, so I recommend that you have a handful of spears on you because they break easily and you may lose them. Early on, I would probably avoid the Wyset and bears until you've obtained a bow, as they take a lot of hits to go down. And lastly, of course, you need a knife to skin these animals, so carry a knife on you while hunting. Additionally, you can also place traps which will allow you to trap certain types of animals without having to chase them down yourself. Now for a bonus tip. If you're new here, you may not know that this land is actually run by a king. And just so happens that the king has personally selected you to pay the king's tax of 1 like or 1 sub. A great bargain for some great tips. And don't forget, stealing is never a good idea. So tip 6 is about how stealing is a good idea. Sometimes you can find some high quality items or tools just sitting around villages, and sometimes it's not a bad idea to just take them. If there are no villagers looking, you can often take items without repercussion, but if there are villagers in view, you may end up losing some dynasty reputation, which isn't that bad depending on the tools you get in return. You still need to be careful though, because if you steal in plain sight and continue to lose dynasty rep, you can get exiled, which is game over for you. Tip 7 is about seasons. Each season has a unique look as well as distinct gameplay elements. The default length of each season is 3 in-game days, but it can be customized to anywhere between 1 to 30 in-game days when starting a new game or changing the customized game options. Each season starts at 7 AM on the first day and ends at midnight on the last day. An hour in-game is equivalent to 2 minutes in real time. In springtime, you can pay taxes, collect moral mushrooms, and collect unripe berries from berry bushes. In summer, ripe berries can be collected from berry bushes. In the autumn, every other type of mushroom can be collected, and in winter, most of the ground vegetation disappears, so collecting sticks and stones becomes a bit easier. There are also certain crops that can only grow depending on which season it is, so let's get into that. Tip 8 is about farming. Farming can be a bit complicated to new players, but there's a lot of reward to farming in Medieval Dynasty, including good money, good food, and good resources. So you should try and get a feel for it as soon as possible. Go to your crafting dial, go to farming and fields, and place and drag a field, which can range from 1x1 to 16x16. Don't go too big for your first field. Maybe start with like a 4x4 if you're brand new. You will need a hoe to plow the field, a simple bag to place fertilizer, which means you're going to need fertilizer to fertilize the field. Then you'll need to plow your field one more time, and then you'll need seeds to seed your field using a simple bag again. After the field is seeded, it can take 1 to 2 seasons to pass for your plants to grow depending on the type. If you're not sure when and what to plant, open up your simple bag, go to seeds, and you will see what you can plant each season, with things you can't plant marked with a yellow X. I have a more in-depth farming tutorial, so if that's something you want to see, consider checking that out at the end of the video. Tip 9 is about villagers. Villagers are NPCs that you can recruit to your village. In exchange of feeding and housing them, they will generate resources for you. To invite a villager to come to your village, you will need to go up to a newcomer who sits next to a communal campfire in town and ask them to join your village. But villagers will need a few things because if their mood reaches negative 100%, they will leave your village. First, a villager will need their own house, so assign them a house in the management tab. Then they will need food, water, and firewood. You can place these items in their house chest, or they can get it themselves if you place food and water in food storage or firewood in a resource storage building. To have a villager work in a workplace, you will need a place for them to work. For example, a woodshed. Assign your villagers to work in a woodshed and increase their work intensity to have them farm resources for you. In order to obtain logs from the woodshed, your villager will require an axe. For your villager to gain access to that tool, you will need to put the tool in either the workplace chest or the resource storage chest. And tip 10 is about bandits. After your first year in Medieval Dynasty, bandits will begin to show up in the valley. They won't raid you or your village or anything, but sometimes they'll make camps and hang out on the roads, and if they see you, they will try to kill you. Be careful of the archers and crossbowmen, because it will only take a few hits before it's game over. However, they're not the hardest to defeat, and you can kite them relatively easy. And if you do happen to take them down, often they will have really good resources on them, including food, tools, weapons, or drinks, which you can either take home for yourself or sell to the local village vendors. If you are up to the challenge, you will often be rewarded in loot and dynasty reputation for defeating them. But if you prefer to play the game without bandits, you can turn them off in the customized game settings. And if you're interested in seeing more Medieval Dynasty tips, check out this video right here, or check out my tutorial playlist. And if you've made it this far, I have one more bonus tip for you. Play around with the game settings and go your preferred pace. Thanks for watching, and take care.